World Minute, the Minute by Minute podcast reviewing 1997 sequel Jurassic Park, 1 minute at a time. I'm Brad.
I'm Dave.
And today we're here to discuss minute 69 of The Lost World, and a new week and some new news coming out from Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom. We have a 6-second little teaser that came out during the past week, which shows Owen scratching the underside of the jaw of a baby raptor.
Yeah, it's so beautiful. That's basically all it is. It's basically Owen looking at the raptor, smiling and kind of chuckling or giggling to himself, and then he reaches in and scratches the underside of the chin. It's adorable. And I know I hate to use the word raptor and adorable together, but it is adorable.
Yeah, remember
they are lethal at 8 months.
Oh yeah. Which might be a sign he's wearing a falconer's gauntlet on his left arm, which has been one little thing going around. Perhaps we might see a similar scene to Tim meeting the juvenile velociraptor in Jurassic Park the novel, where the animal jumps up onto his arm.
Yes, there's definitely been a point of speculation is that this baby raptor, whether it's baby blue and it's being watched through a video screen by Pratt, kind of a la Ben Harrison crash site in Jurassic Park 3, or whether it's a flashback scene, or whether this is even possibly Blue's offspring. I know I've speculated at that point that it's possibly Blue's offspring.
Yeah, it's a pity because the video was posted to Twitter. It's been heavily compressed and it's not HD by far, but
no,
because we were even speculating when it first came out whether it was actual CG or a hand puppet.
And it was confirmed. ILM came out and confirmed it was a digital effect.
Yeah. But I reckon I still reckon, because we know there was a hand puppet scene in production, because Chris is definitely reacting to something there. It's not the usual reaction you get to a bit of green screen or something. Whether the puppeteer's done something he wasn't expecting and he's got a chuckle out of him, or
it's that same amazed look that he has on his face the first time Sarah Harding looked at the baby Stegosaurus.
Yeah,
that kind of just bewildered glee, you know?
Yep. Yeah, that's it. And whether this is the first time meeting with possibly Blue as an infant, one thing to sort of suggest that is it seems a little bit pudgy, the animal, where we know, or we sort of speculated that Blue was a little bit fatter out of the other raptors in Jurassic World. Although I think that was just a CG issue, but there's that fans will throw connections around left, right, and centre. But it's hard to think if this is a flashback or not, because apparently Chris is wearing the Owen Brady costume that we see later on from parts behind the scenes stuff of Fallen Kingdom. So there's little things, little hints left and right that sort of lean to one thing and not the other, and vice versa. The same with the background, which has got a lot of people talking.
Which is really the point of marketing, so they really got us. They really did a good job. And I'm just blown away by the effect that ILM did, because the CGI in Jurassic World wasn't the best. But this, I would have placed big bucks that it had been a full practical effect with just some CGI enhancement.
Which is odd, considering I'd go to so much effort for something like this, which may or may not even be in the film, or because a lot of that stuff they shot for the Ben Hildebrandt and Eric interacting on the camera, we only seen snippets of that. A lot of it was just audio coming through the video camera speakers. But here, it's a low-down shot on a bit of an angle, so it seems to just be like someone's holding a camera filming Owen interacting with the raptor. Whether or not it's Omar Sy's character, Barry, I think his name was. I hope so, because he really needs more to do, because it was disappointing how little he had to do in Jurassic World.
No, I liked the character of Barry, but apparently he's not going to be in Jurassic World or Fallen Kingdom.
Until we see a trailer or we sit down that movie theater, because I'm bad with names. Jurassic shirt guy from the control room was said not to return either, but Larry but apparently he was in the cast that was released or something. And although that was eventually, like someone said that was a misprint or something, but...
Yeah. That's what I heard too.
Yeah. Because even getting back to this, like the people are saying it's the visitor centre, the Cretaceous Cafe sort of wall on the back side there, but it sort of doesn't... There's key parts of it not there. The parasaurs aren't there, which you can see in the art, or in the actual thing when the kids are in there. The height of the wall doesn't look right because you've got that sun shining in just above the top of the vines there, and there's also a bit of a concrete wall coming up to meet the glass underneath Owen's leg there as well. So it's one way or the other, but fans, we can all speculate. No one's right, no one's wrong. Just calm down.
My idea is that he's viewing video of Blue when she was an infant in her nursery. So there's going to be some kind of, not a full carbon copy of Tim when he first meets the baby velociraptor in the nursery, but something like that. You know?
Yeah, it's always been very loosely in some cases, as a reference to what's come before in the novel. Which also could possibly give us the other three Raptor Pack babies sort of rolling around on the ground like that famous bit of crash art, which would be good.
And we do know that that Bayona has definitely been trying to incite the novel in this movie. He's trying to bring the spirit of the novel to the screen and really return the movies back to their roots.
Yeah,
I think.
Yep. Having little parts like that in here will be good. We'll be able to see them on the screen for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if the Falconer's Gauntlet's sort of an interesting one, because you wouldn't think in the training of the Raptors it'd be necessary for them to jump up on. Maybe it's just in case they snap at him or something, he can use his left arm to sort of in defence.
Well, that's kind of what makes me think of the nursery scene with Tim from the first novel. The first thing that the raptor does when it sees Tim is jump into his arms
and sink its claws in.
Yeah. So the arms would be to avoid being kind of slashed up by the claws, like a falconer, which a falconer's gauntlet prevents. You know.
And this thing's definitely got some scratches on it already too. So it's been used before for exactly that purpose.
Exactly.
I suppose one other thing with it, with the CG model as well, it's got one thing that certainly made me think it was CG was the fact that a lot of things are moving. Its nostrils are flaring, sort of the skin on its snout where the nasal cavity would be is sort of puffing in and out as well, because you can't do CG without making every muscle move. So. But it's also got, it looks like a velvety skin it's got on it as well, but it might be just the compression on the video.
I think it might be that. But even then, I mean, Sanderson Studios proved that you can do everything that you just mentioned with a animatronic in The Lost World, and we brought it up when we covered that minute. The T-Rex could move, dilate its eyes, it could move its nostrils, the T-Rex could kind of like snarl the lips a bit. I mean, we know that that animatronics can do that, so that's what made me think that it was a practical effect.
Yeah, we only got to look at sort of how they animated some of the puppets in Jurassic Park as well. Like even as far back then, like I'm pretty sure none of the Dilophosaur shots were CG. It was all practical. The whole.
Oh, it was all practical.
Yeah. So and that thing's doing the same thing, sort of breathing and looking really good, so.
And this is 20 years after The Lost World, so that's what made me think that at this point they can shrink down the technology that they use in the adult raptors and adult rexes.
Exactly.
And shrink them down to baby size, you know?
Yep.
I mean, there's children's toys these days that almost come within Stan Winston Studio quality. Maybe not quality in latex skin that covers them, but quality of the mechanics and why it can move, you know?
Yep. So yeah, that's come out. We've also had a couple of slight, I think it's only been one, but it's been shared everywhere, of the just sort of a fade in, fade out of the Jurassic Park or the Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom logo with the sort of the ash and debris floating around in front of it, which I reckon that'd look fantastic in 3D.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, it was. What it does is the fade in, fade out, and while the Jurassic World logo's there, you see these sparks flying up from the side, which turned slowly become ash, which I thought was a really cool effect.
Yep. And then Life Finds a Way sort of appears in there as well, which I think some people are saying that's like the first 5 seconds of the trailer that's coming, because Matthew or someone asks to keep playing the video or something.
I'm not sure.
Okay, I might be imagining that.
I haven't heard that.
All right. So yeah, by next week's show we might have a trailer or a little bit more. It's this clip here, the Raptor clip, definitely seems viral for marketing. Again, whether or not it's actually in the film at all, it's definitely got the fandom talking. I'd love maybe one or two other little bits like this in the lead up, instead of, say, a teaser to the teaser like we did last time. Just a couple of little videos like this, and then just trailer, bang, go.
Oh, that would be really cool to get a 6-second clip of them trying to lure the T-Rex back to captivity, putting a goat out there with a bunch of guys gathered around with tranquilizer guns, and all you hear is the dum, dum, the thumping of the footsteps.
Oh, could you just imagine 15 to 30 seconds of shaky cam cutting between people yelling and screaming, get her in the cage, or she's there, get the gate closed, or something like that, and not just have not see her, but just hear people running and sort of scared shitless, and then at the end you just hear the roar as a gate latches closed or something.
Oh, be still my beating heart.
Yeah, just little, like, if this is a flashback, then again it's just something like this that we didn't really cover in Jurassic World, and it's just sort of building. Really? Just show me something that happened between Jurassic Park and Jurassic World on Nublar.
Yeah.
That's all I want. Show us Wu landing on island after the evacuation or something. Alright, nothing else you wanted to bring up for the trailer?
No, I think we're good.
Alright, ready to get into 69.
Sure.
As we entered minute 68 of The Lost World, Roland was telling Nick how he was here to hunt the Tyrannosaur. As we start minute 69, Roland then goes on about a chap 20 years ago that climbed Everest without any oxygen and came down almost dead. People asked, why'd you go up there to die? And the guy replied, I didn't, I went up there to live. 68 minutes and 12 seconds we cut back to the stream, where Ian's helping Kelly come up the bank. Ian looks over his shoulder and notices Ludlow behind them, and they fall into step beside each other. Ian tells Ludlow that he hasn't had a chance to wish him luck on his latest business venture, but they're off to a promising start. 68 minutes and 39 seconds after Ludlow tells Ian a prepared speech, sounding like Hammond, Ian comes back with taking dinosaurs off this island is the worst idea in a long sad history of bad ideas, and that he's going to be there when he learns it. 68 minutes and 49 seconds we cut to a wide shot as the group walks through an open grassy plain following a tree line, and the score picks up. Cloud-covered mountains can be seen in the background. And as we end the minute, an animal bellowing can be heard from somewhere off in the distance. Roland and RJ unshoulder their rifles and look back in the direction of the roar. And this ends minute 69 of The Lost World.
Alright, so we opened up here where we finished last week with Roland asking Nick if he remembers that chap from about 20 years ago, which, where the minute ended, seemed a little bit odd, but as we get into this minute, we get the rest of it. Roland forgets his name, but he explains he climbed Everest without oxygen and came down almost dead. They asked him, why did he go up there to die? And the man replied, I didn't, I went up there to live. That man was Reinhold Messner. He went up there with his partner, Peter Hableur. Peter Hableur, and back in May 8th, 1978, they both climbed up there, went up without supplemental oxygen, climbing Mount Everest, which was thought to be impossible at the time. And those two went up there and got back down without dying, obviously. And as Roland here, it sort of alludes to the fact that they're both really accomplished climbers, mountain climbers, and doing something like that was just to live again, to get that excitement back again. Because sort of relating here to Roland as well, we know that Roland was bored with hunting. He'd said it himself back in that cutscene. And sort of being able to come on this hunt with a creature he hadn't been able to hunt before is just sort of give like a shot in the arm of adrenaline. Sort of like an older person buying a motorcycle again or a fast car after getting into their later stages of life.
Yeah, even though that it was both Hebler and Messner that went up the mountain, it's clearly Messner that Roland is talking about here. Looking at his biography on Wikipedia, the guy is a big time naturalist. I keep saying was. He's still alive. He's a big time naturalist who was really and still is really into playing by nature's rules a bit. So, and that was really his commitment, was to climb Everest the natural way, is what he put it when he decided to make the climb.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's just the Lost World's influence or if he really said it, but from what I'm finding is that Messner really did say the quote when he was asked why he went up there to die. He responded with, "I didn't go up there to die. I went up there to live."
It makes you wonder too, like he's Reinhold's 73 at the moment and Peter's sort of 75, so two guys that have been sort of hitting the mountains pretty hard and all that are still sort of alive and well now today. But as we said last week, it's sort of 20 years ago from when The Lost World was made, was 78, or 77, so he was on point with the date, and I have no doubt they use that quote as well. But sort of Nick sort of looks at him for a moment and slows his pace before Roland then sort of continues on, which is interesting because in the shooting script, Nick actually replies to that comment from him and says, "Yeah, the difference is the mountain didn't have to die," which is sort of one last little dig he gets at Roland here.
Which is actually kind of wrong there. The Tibetan government has actually started considering to disallow climbers on Everest because there's some of the places become so littered with trash and dead bodies and corpses that it's becoming a real eyesore, and it's this international treasure. It's the tallest mountain on the world from sea level.
Yeah.
No?
And it's possibly a sign of the times. Like, I know there's parts of the Great Barrier Reef over here that are starting to be locked up from divers and that sort of stuff. Just a couple of weeks ago, the local tribesmen around Ayers Rock or Uluru have said as of February next year, that's it, no more climbing the rock. Similar sort of thing, just because of injuries that happen and all that sort of stuff. They're just going to shut it off and no one's going to be able to do it. So.
It's a real shame that you can't climb Everest, but it's also a real shame that this international treasure has to be sullied just for people's, essentially ego trip.
Yep.
I was reading a funny one of those word boxes, I guess you call them. I'm not really sure what to call them. It was a picture of, it was a captioned image. It said that every dead body on Everest was once an extremely motivated person.
Well, that's the thing, especially up there. Like, people die and people stay there. They don't normally bring them back.
Yeah, they don't bring the bodies back. They freeze and they turn into corpsicles. Eventually.
Yeah, that's just a sad state of affairs. Like, you only got to look back again. I'm not exactly sure when, but I'd say probably 20 years ago or something, where stuff like the pyramids, you're no longer allowed to climb up on them. That's all off limits. Other sort of around the world monuments and that like that, there's just mainly because of stupid people doing stupid things, but it just wrecks it for everyone else. But
exactly. It's a shame that stupid people have to ruin stuff for everybody.
Yeah, yep. We cut back to the stream. We've seen Roland and Nick crossing in the previous minute, where Ian just crosses and helping Kelly along. And there's nothing to spark it, but he sort of looks over his shoulder and notices Ludlow coming up behind him, and those two start sort of falling into step and talking to each other. Where Ian says, "Hey, I haven't had a chance to congratulate you on your new business venture. It's off to a promising start."
The ever sarcastic Ian Malcolm.
Yeah, yep. And which is weird that he sort of left it to here, where, but I suppose before they were setting up the just the meeting of the two camps and the fact that they got to go into the village. But Ludlow replies to him, "My team is intact, Doctor. I'm sorry for the loss of your man," which is a little bit of humility there from Ludlow. But then he goes on. It's very easy to criticise someone who generates an idea, someone who assumes all risk, who puts everything out on the, and then he's sort of cut off by Malcolm coming over, and this is when you try to sound like Hammond, it all just comes off as a hustle. They say talent skips a generation, but hey, I'm sure your kids will be sharp as tacks, which another dig.
It's very true, though. I mean, Ludlow's little speech here sounds very reversed, or practiced, I guess you'd call it. He sounds like he's been waiting for somebody to bring it up to him all night, and he's just been saying it over and over and over again in his head, some way to justify this entire venture,
Well, I'm sure there was a lot of people on the board or just at InGen that was sort of against his idea to start with. We've got the lawsuits and that from people that have died on the island before, and here you come along and decide you want to reopen up the idea of dinosaurs and people. No fences this time. So, but it's just great here how Malcolm sort of cuts him off before he where he sort of says someone who puts everything out on the line, where he's not really, he's put his money out on the line and the lives of those in the team, the hunters, but he's pretty safe at the moment in his little command group there, even though Roland just sort of dressed him down back at camp. Yeah, Ludlow then replies that Hammond's reach exceeded his grasp, where Ludlow's does not. And then Ian again, taking dinosaurs off this island is the worst idea in a long, sad history of bad ideas. And he leans into Ludlow and says, I'm going to be there when you learn that.
And he is.
Which, it's sort of Hammond's reach exceeding his grasp. Well, we don't... Okay, to decide to close Jurassic Park San Diego and move down to the Destination Island Resort wasn't really what exceeded Hammond's grasp. It was just the park and the automation, really, because that's what failed the park. But where Ludlow's under the impression that by sticking to that original idea in San Diego, it's a small area, it's a small venue with a small amount of animals on site. What can go wrong? Ludlow just lowers his head and shakes the comment off.
And we talked about it when we discussed the Jurassic Park San Diego project, and when Ludlow was giving his little spiel to the board and the investors, is that San Diego was a lot more safer than the original Jurassic Park design that they had built. Simply because, I mean, first of all, they had the concrete moats that looked wider. The fences were smaller. They were bringing back only herbivores originally.
Well, in hindsight, or looking at the whole project, the biggest risk to anyone would be this, coming to the island to secure the animals that they needed. Again, why doesn't InGen headquarters have DNA records that they can just have a little lab and make the animals they need in-house? But it must have been cheaper to go and put this hunt on and go and fetch the animals. But
plus, as we see in Jurassic Park 3, it's possible they just didn't have the infrastructure to do it cheaply. I'm sure Isla Sorna alone was probably a pretty penny to set up, and all that automated robotic work that was hatching the dinosaurs, you know?
There might be one other thing, and I've only just thought of it too, that sort of stopped them, and that was the sort of government regulations and all that. In the novel, the whole reason they went to Costa Rica was to be away from the sort of the American government and the UN and that sort of thing, where they can conduct their research somewhat in private without fear of recourse. It hasn't been really talked about or mentioned in the films at all, but if you follow that same sort of idea, then it sort of explain how Jurassic World was able to get up and get going again in international waters off Costa Rica, how here they've had to come here to harvest animals over growing more at San Diego. But it's interesting, the shooting script here too. These two scenes were reversed. We had Ian talking to Ludlow first, and then the Nick and Roland scene, which was reminiscent we brought up in an earlier minute, where Burke and Dieter are discussing the compy and the trackway from the Rex, where Roland goes off on a little hunt to find a nest. And there's also the scenes described as bright moonlight, which explains sort of last minute where we see the group leaving the coast behind, and it's sort of somewhat lighter. Whereas here it's sort of pitch black again, mainly because it's rain, like heavy rain, and the dense clouds would keep the moonlight out.
It's interesting. A lot of the shooting script describes about the night scenes being lit up by a bright moon, which I find is interesting in and of itself, because rain is always considered more atmospheric, and it may have been a decision by Janusz Kaminski, the cinematographer, to bring the rain in. I've always kind of thought that full moons or moonlight was always a bit more dramatic or spooky in a way. It's almost like that typical Halloween, you know?
Well, we sort of get that towards the end of the film with the camp, the open field, and then into the worker village, where, okay, you'd say it's clearly a bright moon. It's more stage lighting, or set lighting, but unfortunately, but it is a lot brighter than what we see in these sort of shots where it's dark, a lot darker, and raining heavily. Which also helps you sort of, you can keep to a tight set. You don't have to worry about hiding things that may be visible, like stage lights and everything else. But we cut here clearly to day, and a wide shot of a rolling grassy plain. The survivors are walking left to right along a tree line, and we get that score pick up nicely.
And I love this shot here, because this is what The Lost World is about. It's this monumental nature, and humans are just so tiny before it, you know?
Yeah, you got the large rocky mountains behind them, which are just covered in fog, like you'd get after rain in the tropics. Just that low depression. And it's just, as we sort of said before too, this is sort of up above Caffey's Beach area as well. So they're still filming in that sort of area. And one thing I noticed here too, which is a bit odd, the first half of the group are running as they go up over that little bit of a rise, where the second group isn't. And I'm wondering if this shot was also reversed, because we cut to the front of the line where they're about to head back into the forest, and you could hear a roar from behind them off in the distance, and sort of Roland and RJ whip around with their guns on the ready, where no one else really does. Burke sort of just looks over his shoulder and keeps on walking. But Roland gives them sort of a hurry-up wave, and they start running towards the forest. So I wonder if that happened, and then it should have cut to the wide shot.
Well, it's definitely a possibility, because Ian looks back as well a little bit, about as much as Burke does.
Yeah.
And you can see him holding Kelly closer, and looks like he's about to take off, running. But then we cut to the next shot of them in the woods.
Yeah. And
it's never explicitly said that it's a T-Rex roar.
That was going to be my next question.
It was supposed to be implied.
Yeah, because that was going to be my next question.
Yeah.
Whether it's a sign of, okay, your first sort of hint that the Tyrannosaurs are following them, or if the Tyrannosaurs just found their camp. and maybe where the baby was chained up, because they'd have to have a bit of scent around it.
Mm-hmm.
Blood from the broken leg and that sort of thing as well. Or if it's something else.
It's a very mysterious roar, because we never hear the T-Rex actually make a sound like that in any other scene.
Let's just say it's a Spinosaur. Because really, it's only that, or the was that red one an Allosaur in Jurassic Park 3?
The Ceratosaurus.
Ceratosaurus, yep. So really, it could only. I suppose it doesn't have to be a carnivore either, but you'd think carnivores would give that sort of guttural roar more than what a herbivore would, but it definitely gets their attention, and it gets them moving anyway. But it's also in the shooting script, the scene is described as dawn dissolving, the black sky of the night. So again, where it sort of looks dark and gloomy here, this is sort of early morning.
Yeah, but instead we've clearly cut to more of a late afternoon shot by this time. This seems, because the next shot we get of them in the redwoods, the sun seems a bit lower in the sky.
Yeah.
And then when Peter gets chomped, it's clearly sunset.
Yeah. All right. And of course the minute sort of ends here after they hear the roar and head back into the forest again. So.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else on 69, Dave, you want to bring up before we get out of here?
I think we're good.
All right.
All right, guys. Let's get the hell out of here.
Contact details are on the website, thelostworldminute.com. You can email feedback to thelostworldminute@gmail.com, Facebook, The Lost World Minute, Twitter @thelostworldminute, and Instagram, The Lost World Minute.
Easy to remember.
Yeah, very easy to remember. David, thank you for joining me for this record.
You're welcome.
And we'll be back. I've been Brad.
I'm Dave.
And we'll talk to you all later. Goodbye.
Talk to you later.
Bye.
It is absolutely imperative that we work with the Costa Rican Department of Biological Preserves to establish a set of rules for the preservation and isolation of that island. These creatures require our absence to survive, not our help. And if we could only step aside and trust in nature